Rise is due to Allah Almighty, who is very merciful. In the early days of Islam, the people of Mecca were accepting Islam in droves. The Quraish tribe of Mecca was an obstacle to this progress of Islam, but despite their efforts, when the progress of Islam could not be stopped, the Quraish started a terrible persecution of the Muslims. When the level of this persecution exceeded all limits, several Muslims migrated to Abyssinia on the advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the Quraysh increased the level of persecution on those who were staying in Mecca without migrating to Abyssinia. The Quraysh thought that if the Muslims staying in Mecca were given even a little concession, they would also go to Abyssinia. The Quraysh collectively decided that they should oppress the Muslims to such an extent that they would not be able to go anywhere and abandon Islam. The Quraysh tribe organized a joint meeting. In that meeting, it was decided that the king of Abyssinia, Negus, should be held responsible for sheltering the Muslims who had fled to Abyssinia. The Quraysh tribe of Mecca had business relations with the Abyssinian region. Even then, the king of Abyssinia, Negus, gave shelter to the Muslims. When the Muslims of Mecca had gone to Abyssinia, Amr ibn Ash tried to bring back the Muslims who had gone to Abyssinia. But Amr ibn Ash's attempt failed. The king of Abyssinia, Negus, humiliated Amr ibn Ash for appealing to return the Muslims. In this incident, the Quraysh were very angry with the Muslims as well as the king of Abyssinia, Negus. The Quraysh decided that since the Jews had a dispute with the Christians, they should contact the Jews. They should tell the Jews that the Christians had given shelter to the Muslims, so join us. According to this plan, it was decided to send a person to the Jews on behalf of the Quraysh so that the Jews would help the Quraysh against the Muslims. At the same time, it was decided to increase the level of oppression against the Muslims. During this meeting, the Quraysh received news that worried the Quraysh. The Quraysh received news that Hamza had accepted Islam. The lion hunter Hamza, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, had accepted Islam. The Quraysh were terrified by this news. However, there are two narrations about Hamza accepting Islam. One narration says that Hamza accepted Islam in the early days of Islam, while the other narration says that Hamza accepted Islam in the 6th year of the Hijri. The Quraysh community of Mecca met with Abu Talib twice. They said to Abu Talib, "O Abu Talib, you should stop your nephew Muhammad from preaching Islam." But Abu Talib did not agree to this word of the Quraysh. The Quraysh were disappointed due to Abu Talib's refusal. Hamza accepted Islam. Hearing this news, Abu Jahl said, "Abu Talib has protected Muhammad until now. Now, in addition to Abu Talib, we will also have to deal with Hamza, the lion hunter." However, after much discussion, the Quraysh decided that from now on, Abdullah's orphan son Muhammad would not be given any concessions and would also have to be tortured. The Quraysh tribe of Mecca used to brutally torture ordinary Muslims, but the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, was protected from this torture. The Quraysh used to throw stones at the Prophet. Sometimes they would throw garbage at the Prophet. But the Quraysh did not have the courage to attack the ordinary Muslims in the way they attacked them. But this time, the Quraysh decided that they would directly attack the Prophet. After taking this decision, the question arose, who would attack the Prophet? It was an incredible plan to attack the Prophet through the protective wall of Abu Talib and Hamza. For this reason, no one dared to attack the Prophet. Then Abu Jahl said, "I will attack Muhammad." One day, the Prophet was sitting near the Safa mountain. At that time, Abu Jahl came there and started abusing the Prophet in indecent and inaudible language. Abu Jahl's intention was to anger the Prophet. Abu Jahl was abusing the Prophet in such a vile language that any common man in that place would have killed Abu Jahl, but the Prophet remained patient and silent. This incident was narrated by the Prophet's maternal aunt, Safiya radiallahu ta'ala anha.
Safiya noticed that Abu Jahl had insulted the Prophet and blessings of Allah be upon him many times. But the language in which the Prophet was being insulted now, no one had ever dared to insult the Prophet so much before. Hamza was 2 to 3 years older than the Prophet. They had many relationships. Firstly, Hamza was the uncle of the Prophet. Secondly, Hamza and the Prophet were cousins. The Prophet's mother, Amina, and Hamza's mother were cousins. Thirdly, after the conquest of Makkah, the Prophet married one of Hamza's daughters. After all, the Prophet and Hamza were almost the same age. Due to this, a deep, friendly relationship developed between the two. Hamza was a skilled hunter. He would often stay out for 2 to 4 days or even weeks at a time for hunting. In between, he would come home for a day or two and then go hunting again. Hamza had great respect for his elder brother Abu Talib. He knew that no matter how much trouble befalls the Banu Hashim tribe, Abu Talib would be able to solve it. One day, Hamza returned from hunting. Then, Janaba Safiya said to him, "Oh Hamza, where has your self-respect gone? Abu Jahl has humiliated your nephew Muhammad in front of everyone and abused him with unspeakable obscene language. And our orphan Muhammad has endured everything silently. Not a single person from Banu Hashim has stood up for Muhammad." Hearing this, Hamza became very angry. He took a bow in his hand and went out to find Abu Jahl. At that time, he came to know that Abu Jahl was in the haram. On the other hand, Abu Jahl was sitting in the haram and was rejoicing. He was telling everyone all the abuses that he had abused the Prophet. Abu Jahl was even planning to organize a festival to enjoy insulting the Prophet. At this point, Hamza entered the Kaaba and saw Abu Jahl rejoicing. Seeing Abu Jahl celebrating, Hamza became even more angry. He struck Abu Jahl on the head with his bow. The impact was so great that the bow broke and Abu Jahl's head burst open and blood started flowing out. Hamza grabbed Abu Jahl by the collar and said, "Oh Abu Jahl, how dare you insult my nephew Muhammad?" Abu Jahl mocked Hamza and said, "Oh Hamza, have you accepted the religion of Muhammad?" Hamza replied, "O people of Makkah, know that from now on the religion of Muhammad is my religion. I declare the God of Muhammad as my Lord." Then Hamza said, "If anyone dares to insult my nephew in the future, I will take my decision with that person." Abu Jahl's companions were agitated by Hamza's words, but Abu Jahl stopped them. Abu Jahl said, "Stop, I have insulted Hamza's nephew Muhammad. According to the law, Hamza has the right to take revenge on me." Abu Jahl stopped his companions because Abu Jahl knew that if Hamza the lion hunter is abused, not a single person here will be able to return home alive. Hamza went directly to the court of the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, I have accepted the servitude of Allah Almighty. I declare that you are the messenger of Allah Almighty. From now on, I will follow your religion." At these words of Hamza, a smile of joy appeared on the face of the Holy Prophet. Tears of joy came to the eyes of the Holy Prophet. Hamza's acceptance of Islam was a great shock to the Quraish of Makkah. Hamza accepted Islam. Many great leaders of the Quraish were disappointed by this news. After Hamza accepted Islam, many people who had not been able to accept Islam before due to fear of persecution began to accept Islam. This time, the Quraish tribe of Makkah started a new plan. The Quraish organized a meeting with the Jewish scholars. For 7 years after the Prophet received the prophethood, the Jews were silent about the Prophet. But this time, the Quraish invited the Jewish scholars to Makkah. The Quraish sought help from the Jewish scholars to confront the Prophet Muhammad. And through this, another new force emerged against Islam. Before the advent of Islam, there were two great superpowers in this world. One was the Persian Empire and the other was the Roman Empire. At that time, the country of Sham was under the control of the Romans. The country of Sham is present-day Turkey. On the other hand, the Persian Empire, that is the Iranians of today, were fire worshippers, followers of Persian and Magi religions. And the Romans were Christians, that is followers of the people of the book. The Quraish were a trading nation. One of the principles of traders was to keep everyone happy. That is why the Quraish maintained good relations with Persia and the country of Sham. When the Holy Prophet was preaching Islam, the Quraish noticed that the teachings of the Holy Prophet were very similar to Christianity. On the other hand, the Persians of Iran worshipped idols and believed in two gods. This belief of the Persians was similar to the pagans of Makkah. Due to this sympathy, the relations between the Persians and the Quraysh of Makkah were improving. On the other hand, the Quraysh were deeply angry with the Christians of Syria. There were two main reasons for this anger. One, the king of Abyssinia, Najasi, was a Christian. Despite being a Christian, he gave shelter to the Muslims. Two, the Muslim faith was very similar to the Christian faith. At this time, there was a conflict between the Muslims and the infidels of Makkah. On the other hand, there was also a competition and conflict between the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire. The Roman and Persian empires used to wage war against each other to expand their dominance. About 20 years before the advent of Islam, this conflict between the Persian and Roman empires calmed down somewhat. A cordial relationship developed between these two empires. During the time of the Holy Prophet, the king of Persia was Khusro Parvez. The Holy Prophet sent a letter to Khusro Parvez inviting him to Islam, but Khusro Parvez tore up the letter of the Holy Prophet and insulted the messenger of the Holy Prophet. Upon learning of this incident, the Holy Prophet became very sad and said, "O my Lord, break the kingdom of this tyrant king into pieces." Because of this insolence towards the Holy Prophet, Khusro Parvez once lost his throne for a while. At this time, the Roman Emperor Caesar helped Khusro Parvez regain his throne.
After this incident, a cordial relationship was established between Persia and the Roman Empire. But then, a rebellion broke out in the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire, a general named Phocas rebelled against the king with his large army. The level of this rebellion was so intense that the Roman king Caesar fell. The general Phocas killed 5 of Caesar's young sons in front of Caesar. Then Caesar was also killed. These 6 severed heads were hung on the walls of the fortress of Constantinople. A few days later, the entire family was wiped out by killing Caesar's wife and 3 daughters. When the Persian king Khosrau received this news, he said, "Caesar was my close friend. He helped me regain my throne. I will destroy Caesar's enemies." At this time, the Persian Empire, that is, present-day Iran, was the superpower of the world in terms of military power. Khosrow Parvez decided to attack Rome. The Roman Empire was a military power at that time, but due to rebellions and internal wars, the condition of the Roman Empire was very pitiful. On the other hand, the general Phocas was a tyrannical ruler. Because of this, the people of Rome began to hate him. On one hand, the public outcry, and on the other hand, the terrible attacks of Khosrow. Phocas was unable to handle this two-pronged attack. As a result, various regions of the Roman Empire went out of control. Seeing this pitiful condition of the Roman Empire, the Christians were terrified. The Christian Pope of that time sent letters to the kings of various regions, including Africa, to save the Roman Empire. Only one king of Abyssinia responded to the Pope's call. That king sent his son Heraclius to save the Roman Empire. Heraclius attacked the Roman Empire with his army and killed Phocas and seized the throne of Rome. The Persian king Khosrow Parvez received the news that the murderer of Caesar had been killed, but Khosrow Parvez's purpose was no longer limited to revenge. Khosrow wanted to expand the borders of his kingdom. Khosrow ordered his general to go ahead and completely destroy the Roman Empire. Khosrow's decision, Heraclius was in great danger because the condition of Rome was so miserable at that time that it was foolish to fight the king of Persia in this condition. Even then, Heraclius tried a lot, but he was defeated in one battle after another. When the Prophet Muhammad received prophethood, this war was still going on. At this time, about a third of Heraclius's empire had fallen into the hands of Persia. After fighting for 5 years in this way, Heraclius, in extreme despair, called for peace with Khosrow. But Khosrow replied to this letter very insultingly. King Khosrow wrote that Heraclius did not have the respect that a scavenger in his kingdom had. "If you chain yourself and beg for your life from my pet dog, I will consider you unworthy of apologizing to me, so you will have to apologize to my pet dog." Heraclius was very surprised to read this letter. It was beyond Heraclius's imagination that a king could write a letter to another king in such a disgusting language. But Heraclius was so helpless and weak at this time that he could not reply to this letter. When Khosrow Parvez realized that Heraclius did not have the ability to reply to this letter, then Khosrow told his army to advance further.
At that time, Jerusalem was the most important city of the Roman Empire. The Persian army captured that city almost without any obstacles. The Persian army did not stop at just capturing it. At that time, the largest church of Christians was in Jerusalem. The name of this church was Kiliosi. A piece of wood was preserved in this church. Christians believed that Jesus was crucified with this piece of wood. The Persian army attacked and burned that church. There was a respected priest in that church. This priest's name was Zechariah. The Persian army also captured this priest and took him to Persia. This was at a time when the Muslims migrated to Abyssinia due to the persecution of the Quraish. After destroying Bayt al-Muqaddas, the Persian army further entered the African region. At this time, the Muslims came to Abyssinia, and the king of Abyssinia, Negus, gave shelter to the Muslims. When the people of Mecca learned of this news that the Christians were constantly losing their kingdom and their holy city was destroyed, their holy piece of wood was also destroyed. Even the Persian army had reached Africa. Then the infidels of Mecca rejoiced greatly, because the Quraysh thought that the Persians were idolaters like them, and the Christians believed in one God like the Muslims. Hearing this news, the Quraysh started mocking the Muslims. They started saying, "Look, our Persian brothers are destroying your Christian brothers. One day we will also destroy you completely." Due to this defeat of the Christians, the infidels of Mecca started celebrating. The Muslims were also a little saddened by this news, because an idolatrous force was defeating a force of the people of the book. At that time, the Muslims had a secret sympathy for the Christians, because they knew that the Christians were followers of the people of the book. It was at this time that the first 4 verses of Surah Ar-Rum were revealed. These verses said that the Romans were now being defeated, but after this defeat, the Romans would be victorious and the Persian Empire would fall. Through this verse, 2 predictions were made in the Holy Qur'an. First, even though the Romans were now defeated, they would soon be victorious. And secondly, when this victory occurs, Muslims will also be happy. But the surprising thing is that even after 7 years has passed since this verse of the Holy Quran has been revealed, there was no sign of the Roman Empire winning. Rather, the Persian army was continuously winning. In fact, almost 2/3 of the Roman Empire was occupied by the Persian army. In such a situation, the Quraysh started mocking more and more. But suddenly the situation changed completely. Heraclius appeared in the court of the greatest priest of Rome, who is called Kohe-Azam in Arabic and Lord Bishop in English. Heraclius appeared in the court of the Lord Bishop and said, "Your Excellency, this is not only a danger to the Roman Empire, but it is a danger to the entire Christian religion. I know that your church has a lot of wealth. Give me this wealth as a loan so that I can create a new army and defend the Roman Empire."
Then the Lord Bishop said, "O Roman Emperor, you will be given the full amount of the church." Heraclius had been thinking of fleeing Rome for a few days, but after receiving this financial help, Heraclius was able to form a strong army. Instead of directly attacking the Persian army, he chose guerrilla warfare tactics. He attacked the rear of the Persian Empire and captured the Madic region. After capturing the Madic region, the Roman army advanced further and captured several other important regions including Nineveh. Due to this defeat, the Persian army was defeated. After that, the situation was such that the Roman army was occupying various regions, and the Persian army was only being defeated. Due to continuous defeats, the Persian king Khosrow fled to Persia and was forced to make a peace treaty. During this war, the Muslims migrated from Makkah to Medina. On the day the news of this victory of the Romans reached Medina, the Muslims won the Battle of Badr. Thus, 2 prophecies of the Holy Quran were fulfilled. The Romans were victorious, and the Muslims rejoiced at the victory in the Battle of Badr. This event was so incredible that a famous historian wrote in his book, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, that this prophecy of the Quran was very surprising, because even the most loyal person of the Roman Empire could not imagine that the Roman army would be able to face the Persian army. Far from it, the Romans could not even think that the Roman Empire would survive. They even had doubts about whether the Romans would survive. At such a time, the Holy Quran predicted that the Romans would achieve victory and the Persian Empire would fall. When this verse was revealed in Makkah, the Quraish were mocking the Muslims even more. The Quraish used to say, "Look, the God of Muhammad has been defeated today in such and such a place, and our brothers who believe in many gods have achieved victory." The Quraysh also used to say, "We will soon drive Muhammad and his God out of Makkah." Today, it is proven how weak the God of Muhammad is. The Quraish of Makkah used to gather in front of the Kaaba every day and would sit there and mock the Muslims. One day, Abu Bakr Siddiq was passing by the Kaaba. At that time, the leader of the Quraish, Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf, was sitting in front of the Kaaba. When he saw Abu Bakr Siddiq, he then called Abu Bakr Siddiq in a tone of extreme mockery and said, "O Abu Bakr, your friend Muhammad and Muhammad's Allah are both liars." Abu Bakr Siddiq replied in a calm voice, "The Holy Qur'an has taught us that Allah Almighty has told us in the Holy Qur'an that the Holy Qur'an can never be false. If you are so sure that the verses of the Holy Qur'an are false, then let us make a deal." Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf agreed to this proposal of Abu Bakr Siddiq. According to the deal, it was decided that if the prediction of the Holy Qur'an does not come true within the next 3 years, Abu Bakr would give Umayyah 10 camels. And if the prediction comes true within 3 years, Umayyah would give Abu Bakr 10 camels. When Abu Bakr Siddiq made this deal, Islam was still in its infancy. It was not forbidden to make such a contract. After concluding the contract, Abu Bakr Siddiq went to the Prophet ﷺ and narrated the whole incident. Abu Bakr Siddiq said to the Prophet ﷺ, "O Messenger of Allah, I was being insulted in front of the Kaaba in such a way that it was beyond my capacity to bear it. That is why I concluded this contract without seeking your permission." Then the Prophet ﷺ said, "O Abu Bakr, you have to change the terms of this contract. Your contract has a 3-year term, but the Holy Qur'an does not mention 3 years. You yourself have set this time limit. In the Holy Qur'an, Allah Almighty says, soon the Romans will be victorious over their enemies. Regarding the time, the Holy Qur'an says, Bidisinin bidinin. Bidinin means within a few years. The Prophet also said, the Holy Qur'an does not mention 3 years, it mentions a few years. The word bidi in Arabic means 3, between 3 years and 9 years. So you have to change this condition of 3 years. You will make a contract of 10 years instead of 3 years. This statement of the Holy Qur'an will definitely come true. Since you will make the condition of 3 years 10 years, instead of 10 camels, you will offer 100 camels. Abu Bakr Siddiq again appeared at the Kaaba and said to Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf, "O Umayyah, I want to change the condition of this contract. The period of the contract will be 10 years. That is, if the prediction of the Holy Qur'an does not come true within 10 years, then I will give you 100 camels. And if the prediction comes true within 10 years, then you will give me 100 camels. O Umayyah, if you fear the Holy Qur'an, then that is a different matter." Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf agreed to this proposal of Abu Bakr Siddiq. After the new agreement was concluded, Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf eagerly waited for 10 years to pass and Abu Bakr Siddiq to receive 100 camels. Before the 10 years had passed, the Muslims had migrated from Makkah to Medina. The news of the victory of the Roman army and defeat of the Persian army reached Medina. This news had also spread in Makkah. After the victory of the Roman army, Abu Bakr Siddiq went to Umayyah ibn Khalaf's son, because Umayyah ibn Khalaf had died in the meantime. Abu Bakr Siddiq said, "I made such and such an agreement with your father Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf. Such and such a person was a witness to this agreement. According to the custom of the Arab region, the son has to pay the debt of the father." Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf was forced to give Abu Bakr Siddiq 100 camels. The Holy Prophet said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, "Slaughter these camels and distribute their meat among the Muslims and the poor." Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf made the deal for 100 camels because he believed that the verses of the Holy Qur'an were false and Muhammad was a liar. That is why he did not think twice about making the deal for 100 camels. When the Holy Qur'an predicted that the Roman Empire would be victorious, the condition of the Romans was so bad that they were constantly being defeated.
It was madness to think that the Roman army would win. But the Muslims had a firm belief that the whole world could be false, but the word of Allah Almighty would never be false. When the Roman army was being defeated continuously, the Muslims became somewhat disappointed. Due to the defeat of the Romans, the infidel community of Mecca was rejoicing and mocking the Muslims. At this time, the Christian king of Hafsa, Negus, gave shelter to the Muslims. For this reason, the Quraysh decided that since the Christians had given shelter to the Muslims, we would establish a treaty with the enemies of the Christians, that is, the Jews. The Quraysh decided to contact the Jews of Medina through negotiations. A group was sent from Mecca to Medina. This group included Nazar ibn al-Harith and Uqba ibn al-Abi Mu'ayd. This group reached Medina and established contact with the Jews. Since the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, the Jews tried to kill him in various ways. They even killed his father, Abdullah. We have discussed this in detail in our previous videos. When the Jews came to know that the most powerful tribe of Mecca, the Quraysh, had risen against the Prophet Muhammad, they were very happy. However, the Jews never dared to attack the Prophet Muhammad directly. All the attacks that the Jews made on the Prophet Muhammad and his family were sneak attacks, secretly poisoning him, hiding in the desert and shooting poisoned arrows. These were the tactics of the Jews. At that time, the Jewish community did not have the courage to directly attack the Prophet Muhammad or his family. The Jews asked the Quraysh why the people of Mecca were accepting Islam after so much oppression on the Muslims. The Quraysh said that the only reason for this was the Holy Qur'an. The people of Mecca were becoming Muslims in droves, ignoring hundreds of oppressions because of this Qur'an. When Muhammad recited the Qur'an, we were speechless. We were repeatedly defeated by this Qur'an. The power of Muhammad is his Qur'an. Tell us a way by which we can destroy Muhammad's Qur'an. The Jews said, "We are telling you 3 tricks. If you can use these 3 tricks correctly, the people of Mecca will no longer be attracted to the Qur'an. The first trick is that when Muhammad recites the Qur'an, you will sit close to Muhammad and start talking or telling stories that are more interesting than the Qur'an. This will attract people to you." This was an incident in the 7th year of the prophethood. When the Holy Prophet recited the Qur'an, the responsibility of telling stories was given to Nazar ibn al-Harith. This Nazar ibn al-Harith was an eloquent speaker among the Quraysh. His eloquence was very beautiful. Also, when Nazar ibn al-Harith went to Persia or Samadesh on business, he would collect stories from there. As advised by the Jewish community, Nazar ibn al-Harith sat in front of the Kaaba and started telling beautiful stories. All these stories were completely new and fascinating for the people of Mecca. Due to this, many people started gathering around Nazar ibn al-Harith. But after a few days, the people of Mecca realized that these stories were just gossip. There was nothing true in all these stories. After that, the people of Mecca gradually started returning to the Holy Prophet. Regarding this incident, Allah Almighty says in the Holy Qur'an, "There are some disobedient people among people who collect false stories in exchange for money, so that people can deviate from the path of Allah Almighty. Allah Almighty has prepared a painful punishment for them." Surah Luqman, verse 6. This was the first strategy given by the Jewish community. As a second strategy, the Jews said that they should spread rumors in the name of Abdullah's orphan son Muhammad. The people of Mecca should understand this. The Quran is not the word of Allah Almighty. Muhammad collected stories from different places and presented them as the word of Allah Almighty. Then a Quraysh leader said, "Are you afraid? Why do you have to spread this to confront Muhammad?" The Quraysh returned to Mecca with this advice and started spreading slander against the Prophet Muhammad. The Quraysh stood on Mount Safa and addressed the people of Mecca, saying, "O people of Mecca, Muhammad's Quran is a lie. Muhammad has changed the stories of the Torah and the Gospel and is passing them off as revelations from Allah Almighty to you." The Quraysh also started spreading rumors about one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad. Abu Fus, may Allah be pleased with him, was a companion of the Prophet Muhammad. This companion's profession was to polish swords. He was a scholar of the Torah and the Gospel. Abu Fus, may Allah be pleased with him, had converted from Christianity to Islam. The Quraysh started saying that Muhammad had no Quran. There was no Gabriel.
Abu Fus, may Allah be pleased with him, taught Muhammad the stories of the Torah and the Gospel, and then Muhammad changed the stories slightly and passed them on as the word of Allah Almighty. In response to this rumor, Allah Almighty revealed verse 106 of Surah Al-Nahl in the Holy Qur'an. Allah Almighty says, "Then they say that someone else is teaching Muhammad, but the one being spoken of does not speak Arabic properly, whereas the Holy Qur'an was revealed in Arabic." Abu Fus, may Allah be pleased with him, was not a Meccan. He lived in the city of Mecca for business purposes. For this reason, Abu Fus, may Allah be pleased with him, could not speak Arabic well.
How can a person who cannot speak Arabic properly make up a word like the Holy Qur'an and teach it to the Prophet Muhammad? When the people of Mecca were asking this question to the Quraish, the mouths of the Quraish became dry. The Quraish again came to the Jews of Medina and said, "All the strategies you gave them have failed." The people listened to the interesting stories for only 2 to 3 weeks. Since then, everyone has started listening to the Quran of Muhammad again. On the other hand, the rumors that we had spread did not help much. It was gradually becoming impossible to confront Muhammad. This time, the Jewish scholars said, "We will teach you some questions. Ask these questions to Muhammad. The answers to all these questions are with us alone. When you defeat Muhammad in a public gathering, the people of Mecca will no longer believe in Muhammad." The Quraysh of Mecca came to the house of Allah with these questions. At that time, the Prophet Muhammad was present in the house of Allah. The Prophet would be defeated and humiliated. In this joy, the Quraysh gathered many people in the Baytullah Sharif. Walid ibn Mughira called the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, the orphan son of Abdullah, is it that your Allah has sent revelation to you through the angel Jabriel? If so, then answer me 2 questions. The first question is it the Spirit? The second question is, are you saying that Ibrahim, or your ancestor, Prophet Ibrahim, was a resident of Palestine? Then how did the descendants of Prophet Ibrahim go from Palestine to Egypt?" At that time, only the Jews knew the answer to this question, and the Jews kept these questions secret. The Jews were also sure that the Prophet would fail to answer this question. In response to this question, the Prophet said, "I have complained to the court of Allah Almighty. When He sends the revelation, I will be able to answer." Everyone in the house of Allah was waiting for the answer of the Prophet. At that time, Jibril appeared with the revelation. In response to the first question, the Holy Quran says, "O Muhammad, they ask you about the Spirit. Say, the Spirit is a command from my Lord. People have very little knowledge about the Spirit." In response to the second question, a complete surah, Surah Yusuf, was revealed. Surah Yusuf is called Ahsanul Qasas in the Holy Quran, meaning the best story. Surah Yusuf tells in detail that Prophet Yaqub, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, had 12 sons. At that time, Yaqub lived in Palestine. Yusuf was thrown into a well by his brothers. A caravan rescued Joseph and sold him as a slave in Egypt. Then Joseph was imprisoned in an Egyptian prison, and Allah Almighty granted Joseph the kingship of Egypt. The 12 sons of Jacob reunited, and they all started living in Egypt. The answer of the Holy Prophet was so detailed that the Quraysh of Mecca were surprised and embarrassed. A spy sent by the Jews was present in this gathering at Baytullah. This spy was also very surprised. The spy started thinking in amazement, "This story is not even in our Torah book in such detail." Then the Jews taught the Quraysh 3 more questions. They said that these 3 questions are so difficult that no one can answer them, and that no one knows the answer to these questions except some of our eminent scholars. The Quraysh again approached the Prophet with these 3 questions and said, "O Muhammad, son of Abdullah, if you are a true prophet, then answer these 3 questions." The Prophet agreed to these words of the Quraysh. A large crowd gathered again in the Kaaba. The leaders of the Quraysh said to the Prophet, "O Muhammad, if you are a true prophet, then tell me, who are the people of the cave? How many are the people of the cave? Those people who are still sleeping and will sleep until the day of judgment." The second question is, who was the person from whom Moses went to learn? The third question is, tell me about the king who built a wall to keep a nation in. There are 2 narrations here. One narration says, the Holy Prophet answered these questions immediately. Another narration states that he said, "I will answer this question tomorrow." After the revelation, the Holy Prophet returned to the house of Allah with the answer. The Quraysh thought that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, would not be able to answer and run away in fear. But when they saw the Holy Prophet arriving at the house of Allah, the Quraysh were completely shocked. The Holy Prophet began reciting Surah Al-Kahf. This surah contained the answers to all three questions of the Jews. In Surah Al-Kahf, the story of the people of the cave is first told in detail. Then the story of Musa and Khidr is told. Finally, the story of King Dhul-Qarnayn's construction of the wall. Through the construction of the wall, King Dhul-Qarnayn captured the Gog and Magog tribes. In Surah Al-Kahf, the answers to these three questions were given in such detail that the Jews were disappointed. Even the Quraysh of Mecca realized that they would not be able to face the Holy Prophet in this way. However, some Jews clearly understood that Muhammad was indeed the Prophet of Allah Almighty. Some of them secretly started making mental preparations to accept Islam. Then the Quraysh changed their plan. They said, "O Muhammad, if you are truly a prophet, show us a sign so that we may believe in you." Once Abu Jahl addressed the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, show me the miracle of Jesus, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, through which Jesus could tell what a person ate and drank in his house and what wealth a person stored in his house." The Prophet said, "O Abu Jahl, if I reveal this, you will be ashamed and humiliated in front of this gathering." But Abu Jahl said, "O Muhammad, shall I assume that you are a liar?" Then the Prophet said, "O Abu Jahl, a while ago you were at home and there was a roast chicken in front of you. At that time, your close friend Abu al-Baghdadi came to your house. When you realized that your friend had come, you were afraid that Bakhtari would share the meal with you, so you quickly hid the roast chicken." Then Abu Jahl shouted, "O Muhammad, you are a liar. You are slandering me." At this time, Abu al-Baghdadi, Abu Jahl's friend, said, "O Abu Jahl, Muhammad is telling the truth. He said, I saw him hiding meat. I understood that you are so stingy and low-minded." Abu Jahl was stunned. He did not know what to say. The Prophet said again, "The people of Mecca trusted you and deposited about 10,000 dirhams with you. It should be noted that there were no banks at that time. For this reason, people would deposit their money with someone they considered trustworthy. Trusting Abu Jahl, some deposited 100 dirhams, some 300 dirhams, some 700 dirhams. But when these people came to ask for their deposit back, Abu Jahl told everyone that the dirhams had been stolen. The Prophet said, "The 100,000 dirhams are hidden in such and such a place in your house." At that time, many people gathered in the worship area.
In this gathering were also those people who had entrusted their wealth to Abu Jahl. Now those people became angry and said to the Prophet, "Is this true?" Then Abu Jahl shouted, "Muhammad is a deceiver and a liar." The Prophet smiled at Abu Jahl's words. Then the people present at the Bayt al-Sharif gathered together and went to Abu Jahl's house, and, as instructed by the Prophet, dug up the soil of that place and recovered 100,000 dirhams. After all this, Abu Jahl shouted, "Muhammad is a magician." One day, a man named Umayyah ibn al-Khalaf brought the bones of a dead person from the grave and came before the Prophet and said, "O Muhammad, on the day of resurrection, these rotten bones will come to life again, and a human being will be created from them." He said, "Now who will bring these bones to life?" In response to this question, Allah Almighty says in the Holy Qur'an, "O Prophet, tell me, the one who created them for the first time will bring these bones to life. The one who created bones from a particle of clay, and he will create a human being from these ashes." When the Quraysh of Mecca realized that the Prophet could not be stopped in any way, they decided that in order to solve this problem, they would have to take strict action against the Banu Hashim tribe. For this purpose, the Quraysh made a pact. This cursed pact is called the Mohida-e-Quraysh. This pact was concluded in Bayt al-Sharif. This pact stated that until the Banu Hashim tribe handed over the Prophet, all our relations with the Banu Hashim tribe would be stopped. All our transactions, including trade, marriage, and marriages with the Banu Hashim tribe would be stopped. We would not even talk to the Banu Hashim tribe. When this pact was made, the Quraysh were disappointed and exhausted from all sides. They realized that the Prophet could not be stopped so easily. All the leaders of the Quraysh agreed to this pact. This agreement was hung on the door of the Kaaba. Abu Talib was very worried when he heard the news of this agreement. He gathered the Banu Hashim tribe and said, "No matter what, we must protect Muhammad. Death is better for us than a single injury to Muhammad's body. The Quraysh have united against us. We must leave Mecca." All the Banu Hashim tribe agreed to Abu Talib's words. Only Abu Lahab did not agree to this proposal. He said, "Will we go against all of Arabia for just one Muhammad? We should hand Muhammad over to the Quraysh." All the Banu Hashim except Abu Lahab went to a place called Shab Abu Talib. This place was behind the Ko Abu Qubais mountain. We will discuss this siege in the next episode. Dear viewers, to get new videos every day, be sure to subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon next to it, and also comment on our videos to let us know your opinions. I hope you all are well and healthy. Assalamu alaikum.